Okay. A couple of, I guess, things to open up with just to get the juices flowing outside of the little update on why it's been a couple of weeks. I want to get this out of the way real quick. So Vanderbilt, a SEC Power Five school, not doing too hot this season, but that doesn't matter. They had a female kicker this past week, and she was the first woman. I'll call her woman. She's in college. She's a young woman. First woman ever to play a game in a Power Five football conference. So for all of you non-American viewers out there, that means that is from one of the major five conferences across the country for college football. She was the first woman ever to play in a Power Five game for a conference, which is super cool, and that's a big step forward as far as equality and empowerment and all of that things. And it gave young girls something to look at and be proud of and aspire to, which is super awesome. But, well, not but. The thing about it is, I decided to just get onto Twitter and have a peekaboo after that game was over, just to see what was being said about it. And for the most part, everything was encouraging and good, but you had those trolls and those people over there trying to not make a big deal out of it, saying that the kick was garbage and all this other stuff, and not giving her the credit that she was due for being the first female to play in a game for a Power 5 conference. Now, the kick, some will look at it and say, "Oh, that wasn't a great kick, yada yada yada." But the thing with it is, she did a squib kick off the tee exactly where it needed to go, for that kickoff to happen. And unfortunately, that was the only play she played because Vanderbilt got destroyed in that game. But that's beside the point. The main thing is, people need to look outside of their own small-mindedness and look at this as, a great thing that happened.
Like you said, it was a squib kick. That's what she was supposed to do.
It was a design play, and everybody's calling out that it was
uncultured swines. Before you start trolling a female for taking over a monumental moment in college football,
right?
She did her job. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. She's not supposed to kick it in the end zone. She's supposed to kick it short.
They wanted to kick it short, and I think part of it was that it was designed so that she didn't have to run down the field and maybe throw up a block or get truck sticked by a 240-pound tight end that's on the kick return team for as a blocker, which is understandable. So she executed the play how she was supposed to, and all the people that are trolling her probably never played football a day in their lives, or if they did, they peaked in high school, and that was it. So just chill, accept it and move on. There's no reason to belittle her.
It's a squib kick, and then people are giving her shit for running right off of the field after she kicked it.
I would too.
I'm a grown man.
I'm a
pretty big grown man, and you're not gonna catch me going up against one of those 250-pound monsters.
No, hell no. I'm
basically swinging a sledgehammer that is their helmet into my chest.
Yeah, I'm 6'1" and a okay 200 pounds, but I'm not going to stand out there and get truck sticked by some dude that's got 50 pounds on me, and all 50 pounds that he's got on me is straight muscle. No thanks. And she got co-SEC special teams player of the week for
awesome.
Being that. And I was like, that's awesome. And then of course I looked on the comments on that, and everybody was like, why does she deserve this? Blah blah blah. She didn't. She did one kick, and I was like, shut. Who cares, dude? You're just pissed because it's a woman encroaching on your man sport. Man, who cares? Who the hell cares? If girls or women want to come in, and if they're good at kicking or punting or whatever, and that's what they want to do to play football, then by all means go ahead. And if there's a girl that wants to come in and play wide receiver and can take the licks, that's poor phrasing. Just take the hits, then by all means go for it. I might be a little squeamish watching a female just get absolutely truck sticked, but if she can take it and get up right after it, then go for it. Like, I don't
Well,
care. I don't care.
and speaking of truck sticks, it might be a good lead into Nate Robinson getting completely
Nate
blasted
Robinson got
and laid out.
absolutely lambasted.
The thing about it is he was against Logan Paul,
No, Jake Paul.
or Jake Paul, sorry, other Paul brother.
Yeah.
And he was like tweeting before he went in about like, I'm gonna do this.
I'm doing this for all my NBA
I'm
brothers
gonna
and
do
blah
this
blah
for
blah.
all the NBA athletes, show them that we're athletes, and then he not only gets knocked down in the first round, but gets K the fuck O'd. Like, it was hard watching his face hit the mat twice. We were talking about it a little bit before we got live, but he not only got like knocked out and went down, but his face bounced on the mat and went down again. And it was like almost harder to watch the second hit because he was lifeless.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can
I was
find.
about to say, bring it up, could you?
I'm trying to find the video.
I hadn't seen the actual clip until this morning. I Google searched it. It's one of the first 3 like Google searches on there. But
Like under recent news or something, or what?
It's like uncomfortable
I can't
to watch. If you just type in
Nate Robinson
knocked out clip, it will.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, Jake Paul is a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't like Jake Paul at all.
At least he's boxing now and doing something somewhat respectable, I guess.
Here we go.
But now Jake Paul's tweeting at like Conor McGregor, or I don't know if he's tweeting, but he's like calling out Conor McGregor. I'm like, please, Conor, step into the ring with Jake Paul.
And Conor's not even a boxer, really, but like,
please do it because he will rock your shit.
Video is private. What
disaster?
Stupid. Okay. Apparently, wait. Here we go. The knockout. Is this it? Yeah. Okay. It's gonna be in slow mo. I think is what we've got right here, but it is what it is. All right. Here we go. Let me just. Nope. Not that. Got smacked, and I'm sure you guys have seen the memes about it, but
let me see if I can find the.
I thought that was it. I'm pretty sure that was it.
I'll send you the clip that I
all right
found earlier. I'm rocking my dual screen now here.
Dual screen's the way to be. If you that's almost the only way to have like a PC setup now. Even if you're not like a streamer or anything like that, just having 2 monitors is just. Jake Paul posted the whole fight on his channel. Gross. Let's search Jake Paul now.
It was a clip that I had to scroll down a little bit to see the actual final knockout.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. Ooh, okay. I'm not trying to. Videos. I don't see. Yeah, I don't see it on there. Mission failed. I don't think the video's on there.
I'll find it. Hold on.
I mean, I'm not
That's
that.
the full fight. New York Post. Now it's all about how he posted the iconic Friday clip in response to his knockout.
I don't know, it's so dumb.
He's like, he got knocked the fuck out. Like, cool, dude. At least you can laugh about it, but at the same time, I get so tired. Like, and I know, athletes are athletes, and they're more athletic than I am.
Yeah.
But we need to stop with all this, like, oh, if LeBron would be a tight end or, whatever. These are professional athletes. Like, clearly Nate Robinson thought he was athletic enough to have a couple lessons and then step in a ring with Jake Paul, who's had boxing experience, who has done this before in a ring.
Right.
And the results were pretty clear because he was not blocking a single punch. He
No,
Did
I feel
not
like
look good the entire time.
Nate Robinson just kind of walked in that, thought it was going to be like a street fight.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm good. I've knocked somebody out before, like in the streets, which is one thing. That's
That's
kudos to you.
Yeah, it's
You
a
know,
completely different thing though than stepping into a ring with somebody who's had some type of training
he's been
and
training for a long time.
and yeah, like yeah. All right. I'm
Anyway,
not too
we
worried
can get
about
over
it.
that. Yeah,
I just thought that was funny,
it's
and
very funny.
the memes were hilarious.
Like you were talking about the ones where like they still have Nate Robinson laying on the sideline, on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
outside of the ring with
They photoshopped him into about
Roy
1,000
Jones.
different, about 1,000 different.
The one with him laying in the room, and it says when Andy's coming up
Oh,
the stairs,
yeah,
and
yeah.
all of his toys are going back to
When you hear Andy's coming,
motionless. Yeah, and it's Woody and everybody, and Nate Robinson just laying there. Oh, poor guy. Oh yeah, Iran scientist. We're gonna get into that.
yeah, we'll get into that.
I don't know where everybody's at. Mission failed.
I can't tell you, man. But I think we're gonna start with though. It is all but confirmed at this point. More and more states that were up in dispute have confirmed their results. Georgia, Arizona, who else? Michigan.
It's over.
It's over. They all confirmed.
It's way over.
Biden is now going to be the 46th president of the United States. Were there any doubts though? Nah, I didn't really have any doubts. I was interested to see how it was all going to play out, and I think there's still probably court cases to play out, but I think right now the be all and end all of it is Biden's are going to be our president, and he's going to be inaugurated in January.
The funniest part to me about the whole part was when we went to bed that night after the live stream of the presidential election, and the odds for Trump to win were like through the roof. I had CNN as the last channel on before I shut it off and went to bed, and the CNN analysts were like, and I'm sure Joe Biden is already consulting his legal teams, and planning to file legal action. And I was like, of course they're going to say that. Trump's team would be saying the same thing. And then I woke up and I literally checked the Vegas odds first thing the next morning, because that's kind of how I get a basis of how things are going. And it had swung way in Biden's favor. And then I turn on Fox News and it's Trump's legal team is already,
Right.
setting the course for action. I'm like, of course, that's going to happen either way.
Right.
Like, either whoever wins, they're going to do the same thing. Like, it's going to happen either way. Don't pretend like one side is so pious or like...
Right, like one side's like, oh, we'll just accept it no matter what.
Yeah, no, get out of here. I mean, is Trump handling it? Has he been handling it like a giant baby?
Yes,
Absolutely.
100%.
Biden probably would have handled it a little bit better, honestly.
Probably a little bit more graciously, but...
But, it don't matter, dude. They're both of them were going to do the same exact thing. It doesn't matter who is the winner.
Yeah.
And now the Georgia Senate vote that's happening in January, that's going to shift the Senate leaders to either... Because if...
For just the state Senate?
Yeah, well, so if the Democrats win in Georgia, it will be a Democrat-led Senate, House, and White House. Yeah. Although the Republicans did swing a fair amount of House seats, so it won't be so divided like it was going into this race.
Right.
But talk about a great reset.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
If the Dems control the White House, the House, and the Senate majority, we're going to be like... I was listening to a lady in Georgia today who's obviously a big Republican. She was saying that they're the firewall between our country becoming a socialist country and us not, basically.
Well, like I said before, I've said this on an episode before, dude. It's like it's very easy to vote yourself into socialism. You can't really vote yourself out of it. and a lot of times the only way out of socialism is by shooting your way out, and you can look
That's
at historical examples of that
Venezuela.
throughout the world. Venezuela being the most recent one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is very, very scary thought. So I don't know, but we'll get into that. We'll talk about that some more, probably towards the end of the episode. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Biden's going to be our president. What's really kind of funny about that is I saw something today that Biden has already fractured his foot. That's how fragile our next president is. He has hairline fractures.
I don't want to say that's how fragile he is.
Listen to it. Listen to how he did it. Listen to how it did it.
I know. You go ahead.
He fractured his foot. I think multiple hairline fractures in his foot playing with his dog.
Playing with the dogs.
So he was playing with his dogs, and I turfed it or stepped it wrong or something. Found a pothole, and he broke his foot. Now, honestly, that could have happened to anybody, but it's just kind of funny, given who it is and some of the things that we've said. But yeah, so I don't know. There's one thing I was talking to my dad about the other day. Was that I was like, well, yeah, Biden leans more socialist and stuff like that, and I was like, but well, I don't foresee it changing all that quickly in 4 years, given what my knowledge was moving from recent, how things were going to be divided again, where like the House and the Senate were going to be controlled by opposing parties, but now under new light. And what my dad said, he's like, I think you'll be surprised at how quickly things change. And given the information that Alex just told us, and getting into some other things here in a little while, things might change very quickly, and it's going to be very scary.
And people were saying that like Andrew Yang was moving to Georgia so he could vote Democrat, which is not true at all. Andrew Yang is in Georgia right now,
but also you have to live somewhere for 6 months in order to be.
He's there to campaign. Like it just drive. I try to, again, I've said this 100 times. I'll say it again. I try to listen to about 30 minutes of Fox News every morning, about 30 minutes of CNN. It's a lot better now that the election's finally over. And CNN's all coronavirus, and Fox News is all, the race in Georgia. And like, it's just people, I hope they're losing their faith in mainstream media, and we can all just come to an agreement. But the rubber band effect that I was hoping for, where like it was so publicized, and then it was going to come back and people are going to be like, okay, well, what they were telling us, there's hints of the truth in that, but a lot of it is just complete bullshit. I don't see a lot of it in like our social media. It's kind of, or in what's being reported on obscure news sites. It's kind of making me more nervous than I was going into the election.
Right.
I thought that people would start to kind of get some common sense about them and realize that, hey, as long as we all work together and like don't lose our cool, we're going to be fine, and don't, just trust the established political parties. But
no, more and more people are moving into that, and more I keep telling people, go read the book by George Orwell, 1984.
Don't if you have a lot of anxiety.
Or don't if you have a lot of anxiety. Yes, true. But like I read that book, I think in high school, or like I think it was high school, and I didn't appreciate it at the time. But holy cow, as I think about certain parts of that book that I remember and what's going on right now, it's eerily similar to what that what George Orwell wrote about when he wrote that book, which was even before 1984. He wrote that book, I think, in the somebody's gonna lambaste me for this later, but I want to say like in the 50s. I'd have to look it up, but I don't want to waste time doing that. So that's he was predicting that, just as maybe this will happen in the 80s or but it's coming more true nowadays. So that's very, very eerie and very creepy.
It is uncomfortable to say the least. It was written in 49.
In 49, so I wasn't too far off.
Published June 8, 1949.
There you go. You know what else is uncomfortable, or who is in an uncomfortable position right now? Iran.
Before we go into that, because I have a lot to say on that.
Okay.
Mission Failed said the Nintendo World.
Oh yeah, I saw that and I was gonna save it.
It looks incredible.
But yeah,
They have a Mario Kart go-kart track. And I literally just set up the Nintendo 64 last night, and me and the girlfriend played way too many games of Mario Kart. It was incredible. I started off beating her ass every game. It was just not even fair. And by the end, she was beating me. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Rage quit. Yeah. So we'll take that little moment of levity before we get into some more heavy stuff. Yeah, it does look super awesome though, and like it looks way too much like what everything looks like on the Switch now, which is also crazy.
It looks like a video game.
It literally looks like video games. Like, it's crazy. And if I had the funds and coronavirus wasn't rampaging around the world, I would make a trip to Japan to go to that. That would be super dope. Mario Kart Wii is the best Mario Kart. Changed my mind. I don't know. I kind of clap cheeks in Mario Kart DS.
And N64, man, there's just something about the original that's just so fun. Like, and the 4-year-old, talk about rage quit. She tried to play Mario Kart for a while last night, and she just couldn't grasp it.
She was like, nope.
And she got mad at one point and threw her controller down, and the 64 literally toppled off of like the second shelf of my TV stand on its face. And I was like, it might be dead. It might be gone forever. Pop that bitch back up, blew on the cartridge, blew in the system, popped it back in, fired her right back up like a champ. Never even skipped a beat.
What a tank.
Like, what a brick of a system that was.
Tank.
I could do that with my Xbox One, and it'd probably just shatter.
Yeah. If you had
that 64 is, I mean, this is literally the one that I had when I was 8, 9, 10. I don't even remember. But it's been through a lot of different houses and seen a lot of different games played on it. And this thing fires up just
that's insane.
Like nobody's business. Brick of a system.
Alex.
Yeah, fuck off. Mission failed. We've been over this.
Been over this. All right.
You're just jealous because you don't have an N64. And
Boom.
I can beat your ass at Mario Kart.
So yeah, right. What I was gonna say before we got distracted. Well, not distracted, but talked about Super Nintendo World. Iran very recently, the last couple of days, just had their top nuclear scientist assassinated. I'm going to say assassinated.
No, he was definitely assassinated.
There's been a murder, and they called an emergency meeting, and immediately went Israel sus.
Well, yeah, it was a motorcycle bomber, and it literally like follows a carbon copy of the same shit that they've done.
So this is
time and time again over the years. That's what it was.
I mean, so yeah, for those of you that don't know, Israel has their version of the CIA is called the Mossad, and they're pretty much really, really good at their jobs. And honestly, they're probably better than the CIA at a lot, pretty much everything.
They don't have any rules, and they don't care if they get caught.
Right. So yeah, it does follow a pattern of other assassinations that have taken place.
Well, and Israel also has neither denied nor claimed responsibility. They're like, I don't
know, something happens.
We're not really sure.
They were kind of just like, "Ooh, sucks."
It's like pleading no contest in a crime in court. It's like you have not guilty, guilty, or no contest. And it's like if you plead no contest, you're basically pleading guilty.
Yeah.
If you're not guilty, you're going to be like, no, dude, that wasn't me. No, I'm not guilty. I'm pleading not guilty. They're like, no contest.
Israel looked at that and
We're
they were
not sure.
like, "Well, we kind of know that you guys all think that we did it, and you have a pretty good guess that we did it, but they're kind of like, where's your proof?
We're just not
We're
sure
gonna
yet.
need your proof, and until that time, we're not saying a word."
We're just not real sure.
And that's how it's gonna ride, and I don't know if anybody's going to. I don't think they're gonna be able to prove it one way or another, because that's typically just how the Mossad operates. They're gonna be like, they're probably gonna come for me after this. I'm out here just calling them out like this, and lo and behold, we might not have a podcast anymore because I'm gonna disappear. Um,
We're not big enough yet.
that's true. But keywords, the NSA is always listening.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so that happened, which actually puts a big wrench in the Iranian nuclear program works. It's gonna set them back a little bit here, and I'm sure they definitely do not appreciate that. Speaking of Iran and nuclear stuff, Biden is probably going to put us back into the Iranian nuclear deal, which I'm not super versed on, but
Well, it's not working. It's supposed to be that we all cut the shit on the nuclear programs, and so we don't blow ourselves up and start a World War III.
and
But that's not really how things are going.
yeah,
It's
so
not. I mean, you still got old Kim Jong Cuckboy splashing nukes into the ocean.
he's just out
which
there dropping uranium into the Pacific Ocean for no reason.
My Xbox just turned down out of complete random. Talk about the NSA always
Oh,
listening.
God.
It literally just fired up out of nowhere. You need to shut off. Say what you want about Trump. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I got weirded out by my Xbox just turning on by itself.
No, it's all good.
Say what you want about Trump, but he didn't make real ground with Kim Jong Un, but Kim Jong Un at least cooled off a little bit and
Right.
quit his shit, while Trump was in office. I was actually talking about this with my therapist because she's huge anti-Trump, and I'm not pro-Trump, but I'm not anti anything.
How that dynamic goes. I wonder how that dynamic goes when you talk about having maybe anxiety about the political situation. Did your therapist just chime in and go, "What? Screw Trump"?
Well, at this point in time, we are almost more just friends. Like we only talk once a month.
Oh, gotcha.
It's really just kind of like a touch base. Make sure my meds are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm fine. Everything's fine. We're good. So it's really me just like talking to an old pal at this point in time. And she lost her husband not long ago from a heart attack, like middle of the night.
Oof.
Real sad thing. He was
That
a firefighter, like did a bunch of charity work. He was a big Trump supporter, actually.
Wow.
But they had a very healthy relationship in which she had different political views. He had different political views, but at the end of the day, they could discuss them. And although they might disagree, they were still married and loved each other and, lived under the same house. So,
Right.
We were talking and I was telling her that I think our country was best suited under foreign threat under Trump, but I think our country was best suited against international turmoil from people rioting and looting and civil war under Biden.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, I've talked to a lot of people and they have that same view. And I kind of think that like Kim Jong-un and Putin, although they are crazy within their own right, they know that they're unpredictable within themselves. So when they look at Trump, they know that he's just as unpredictable and crazy as they are.
Right.
And when you look at someone like Biden, who's more level-headed and he's almost more predictable, in the sense of like he's a normal person. And
I would stretch to say that he's even perceived as docile.
Yeah, exactly. That when other foreign leaders look at him, and I don't want to say that like the Iran nuclear scientist was assassinated because Biden was elected. That would be completely irresponsible and not smart of me to say. But I don't want to say that it's completely out of the realm of thinking or culpability that didn't have something to do with Israel being like, okay,
Right. I feel like they looked at that and said, well, maybe we got to take things into our own hands. And then,
We might have a little shot here. We might have a little window of
I don't even
opportunity
know if it was
here.
like a shot. I think they just looked at that and said, okay, so now we're not totally for sure if we're going to have the same type of backing that we have had for a while. We're going to need to get ahead of this maybe a couple steps just to give ourselves some breathing room.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that's probably what happened there. Yeah.
Well, and the Trump administration, with the few days left that they have, I was reading, I don't think it was this article that I have pulled up right now, but they have a very heightened sense of awareness right now. Shortly after the assassination, Donald Trump retweeted Israeli journalist Yossi Melman, who wrote that Farizadeh was the head of Iran's security military program and was wanted for many years by the Mossad.
Well, there you go.
So, I mean, it's not a secret.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely like the Mossad is and the CIA are like the worst kept secrets like in the world.
Yeah.
Like they're there and things happen and you're like, you know what? That was probably them, but until you can get concrete proof, you're just like it falls under speculation. Even though in your gut you can be like, well, that was 100% them, but until you have proof.
And here's the thing with Iran right now is their economy has been suffering under unrelented sanctions.
Right.
And its top leaders was dealt repeated blows in recent years. So you have a dog backed up in a corner right now that's hungry, that doesn't know where to turn, that is already on its heels and doesn't really know what to do next. And now one of their top nuclear scientists just got killed. And it's like you're just poking that hungry, angry dog in a corner who is literally at the end of its wits, like, well, I'm just going to start biting. I'm just going to start fucking attacking because that's all I have left.
We'll see what those attacks look like and how we respond,
to say the least.
How we respond, I don't know, because Trump is in his weaning hours is pulling about half of the military personnel that we have over in the Middle East back. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if there's more deployments or if we're just gonna rely on air power. We'll see what happens to that. And somebody made a comment, I guess at work, probably last week. It was such a dumb comment that I almost stopped what I was doing to walk back and be like, "Are you dumb?" But I didn't. So person was like, "Oh, they're pulling all these military members out of the Middle East, and now we're just gonna like leave all our tanks and stuff behind for the Taliban or whatever to use." And I was like, "Do you understand what it means when we pull out of a place? Like we don't leave anything, and if we do leave anything, we demo it so that it doesn't go into the hands of the Taliban." Like
exactly.
We learned from Russia's mistake when Russia left Afghanistan in the 80s, and they just like up and like left all of their crap, and the Taliban was like, "Oh, sick, thanks very much." Like,
we'll take that.
We'll take that, and that came back to bite everybody in the ass.
Also, how about Trump firing the Secretary of Defense?
The new one?
Have you heard anything about that?
I knew another one retired or like quit, and then he'd fire another one, the interim?
No.
Or did I get messed up?
Original one.
Oh.
This is not the interim one. And it was basically because he said that there was no collusion in the election.
Oh, yeah, I didn't remember hearing that. Well, then he just pardoned some dude. He just pardoned. Yeah, I don't think he fired. He just pardoned like his original. Was it like secretary? Who the hell?
Edward Snowden.
No, it wasn't Edward Snowden.
The best thing that Trump could have done going into the election was pardon Edward Snowden, and I really do believe that he would have won.
Who did he Justice Department? Michael Flynn was who he just.
He pardoned Michael Flynn.
Yeah, he pardoned Michael Flynn. It was all right, Mission failed. We'll see you later, man. Yeah, Michael Flynn, who was his original. My dad's texting me because he's watching. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, Michael Flynn. He was. Gosh, I'm gonna. Don't forget to shout out Spaceman. Oh yeah, I will. I will at the end. And before you leave, happy birthday on Thursday. Mission failed.
Where is Spaceman?
I don't know. He's off doing something. Um,
Uh,
frick. This is gonna annoy me because it was
the
his
mission.
national security advisor. It is Pops coming in with
Yeah.
the save again. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. I wanted to say secretary of something, but that's not right. But yeah, he ended up he pardoned him. Um, who this is crazy because he pled guilty to lying about Russia contact. Uh,
Yeah, he's also likely to pardon former manager Paul Manafort.
but yeah, they gave him because he pled guilty to lying. Pled guilty in 2017 to lying to the FBI about his contacts with the Russian ambassador, and then cooperated extensively with prosecutors. But he ultimately reversed course and accused the government of trying to frame him. And
No
he
way.
withdrew his first guilty plea and substituted for a second non-guilty plea. Even though he'd acknowledged the underlying conduct that was against the law and close to receiving sentence. The pardon obviously has drawn condemnations from Trump critics.
Dude, you know who's on this list of people that he could
So
pardon that there's whispers about?
who's that?
The one and only Joe Exotic,
No,
the Tiger King.
no,
I'm
he's
reading
not.
it right now
He's
by the
not.
US Daily Mail. Who's in line for a Trump pardon? Paul Manafort, Steve Bannon, Rick Gates, and even Joe Exotic are among names in the frame as the president exercises his right in his final weeks of office.
Didn't I feel like it came out and Trump was like super into Tiger King,
It wouldn't surprise me.
and so that's probably why that
I'm
has
looking
something
for
to do with it. That's
I'm looking
insane.
for actual evidence
Please no, that dude
that
tried to
this
have
would.
people murdered multiple times.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's crazy.
I can't find actual like quotation from him or anything like that, but that would be awesome. I
That
I
would
would
just
love
be
that.
like the
I
icing
would
on the
love it.
cake.
That would be the icing on the 2020 cake.
If Joe Exotic gets
That
pardoned.
Joe Exotic gets pardoned from Donald Trump on his way out.
It would be
Live
bonkers.
your life, Joe.
Uh,
Although your husband realized that he's not gay because he's not hopped up on meth anymore.
True.
So,
God bless. That's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. Oh God. Speaking of
boy.
rabbit holes, I know it's kind of mentioned here, but it's this thing floating around, and I wouldn't really say floating around, but it's actually gained a lot of traction. And this ties into Biden being president, actually. But on the horizon is this looming thing called the Great Reset.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. And I think what's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks, this is going to be just a little teaser of it. But I think what I want to do is really get in, do some research on it. There's some videos that I was sent that I need to watch. I started watching one of them today, actually, while I was working out. And I really want to like be able to cover this in a decent amount of depth, I think, and kind of get all the facts out there so that we can at least do our part to inform people of what's coming and hopefully shed some light and open some people's brains to this great reset that is on the way. So basically what it is it's a lot of world leaders, then they're coming, they've all come together and they've all kind of decided that it's time to just reset the clock on everything, economics, politics to a degree, housing, all sorts of stuff. And I'm not going to say that COVID was a government ploy by multiple governments or even just our government to try and get this kickstarted. But I will say that it is going to be used as the launching point for this to gain traction and try and happen. Because what's happened is we've gone into lockdowns and multiple countries all across the world went into lockdowns with this COVID thing. And everybody just accepted the fact that they were like, yep, okay, the government's told us, we're going into lockdown. And now we are basically solely reliant on the government for what we need because, we can't work. So, we in America here, we got one $1,200 stimulus check. Canada was...
Someone just released a stat today that if you divided the $1,200 stimulus check into per day diem since it was released, it would be $4.73 per day since that check was released.
Perfect.
Just fun fact.
Yeah, so we got that stimulus check to try and gonna help people through. Canada was giving out plenty of money to help their people through. And other countries have done the same. I was talking with my dad, and he was saying that there's places in Australia that went into lockdown for 3 months. Like you couldn't, you couldn't leave your house for 3 months. There was a curfew, and he told me that I think if I remember right, when he said it was Victoria, the state of Victoria in Australia, this 12-year-old kid went out after curfew to go play in the park, and they arrested him. They arrested a 12-year-old kid, handcuffs and everything, and chucked him in the back of the police car because he violated curfew. And then a similar thing happened in England. I think London. My dad said London. This 70-year-old lady was protesting, the lockdowns and everything, and they bundled her ass into a wagon, arrested her, quite shamefully, I think. And bundled her into a wagon, and they did all that right in front of a member of parliament.
Australia, they arrested that lady for posting anti-mask stuff.
Yep, and they also, I remember that too. Yep, they had there was a lady that had posted, like Alex said, anti-mask things. Was basically trying to exercise her freedom of speech on a social platform. And the cops came to her house and they confiscated all of the electronics in the house, arrested her because took her phone. They arrested her because they said she was inciting, her post was inciting hysteria and disobedience to the government and other kind of stuff. It's insane. So there's all that kind of stuff that's going on as well. And it's all just keying into this thing, they're touting it as the Great Reset. And if anybody knows anything about Brentwood, the treaties that were signed after World War II that came into effect on how the world was supposed to operate after that war, that set up the United Nations in New York. It set up the U.S. dollar as being the basis for all trade around the world. And a bunch of stuff like that. So this is basically being touted as the new Brentwood Accords or Brentwood treaties.
Buy Bitcoin. If anyone is listening and wants my financial advice whatsoever, buy Bitcoin right now. That's anyway.
Yeah. So they're doing that, but I think just as a little teaser into it, they're talking about getting rid of pretty much all privatized banks and all banks around the world and going to one central world bank. And they're going to do away with actual money, and this kind of gets into Alex's thing, and they're going to go into a cryptocurrency or a digital currency, which is scary. So, if you're in the banking industry, I would be worried about this. And then another thing that might be coming from this is you're not going to be able to own property anymore. Like if you own your house or own some land or anything like that, the government is going to snatch it up, take it from you, say you can't own this anymore, and then they're going to tell you where you can live.
Well, I might be wrong about this, but it sounds to me, in my uneducated opinion, that if centralized banking systems were done away with, most of the people that quote unquote own their homes don't really owe it. The bank owns it,
Right.
and
Yeah,
then
it's
they
all
make their
it's
payments
all
to the bank. So I think they would have a hard time. Like if I straight up outright owned my home, I don't think they could come in and say, "Hey, we're taking your land." But I think if I
well,
owned
the
it
government's
through,
tried it before. That's what happened in what was it? Was it Wyoming or Colorado out there where they had that huge standoff with citizens because the dude's cows were out grazing and the government thought that they were had rights to that land out there, and he was like, "Nope, this is my land. My cows can graze here if they want." And then the government tried to come in and snatch it, and they got in basically a shootout, or they had a
yeah,
giant standoff. So I mean, the government can come in and take land whenever they want. Well, they can try. You just have
yeah,
to be smart enough to know your rights.
I think they would have a lot harder time doing that on someone who said, "Hey, look, I paid for this piece of land. This piece of land is mine." Like right now, if they came into me and they said, "Hey, we bought out Bank of the West, which my loan is through, and now we own Bank of the West, so technically we own your house, and you are going to go now live here because you don't own your house anymore." I would have a lot harder time with the justification of that versus if I said, "I don't owe you a dime. I don't owe a bank a dime," but be real, majority of people don't own their house
Right.
outright. So if they bought the bank institution in which quote unquote owned your house, then they would have a lot easier time coming in saying, "Hey, this isn't yours anymore," because you never really owned it in the first place.
Exactly. But like I said, this is all just kind of a teaser into some stuff that I want to get into over the next couple of weeks. Might make a series out of it for a couple of weeks or so. Because it's interesting. I mean, it's just interesting to me. And I would kind of want to see, how they're all going to work it and what we can do to avoid this because it at the worst case scenario, it looks very, very much like world communism, and that's
That's
like
basically what it
it's
is.
basically what it's going to turn into. So, I think that should scare us all, or at least put us, mindful about it. Is that China is even in on this? Like, yes, let's have this great reset. Um, and it's there's also more than likely an impending financial crash coming, and it's going to be worse than the recession of 2008. It'll probably be more along the lines of the Great Depression, and it's not just going to be localized to the United States. It's going to devastate the world economy. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have been financing everything throughout the globe with debt. And we're coming to the point where we have kicked the can as far as we can kick it. So if you have stocks, the stock market is in a historic upswing right now. But it will come down. So if you're feeling it and you've made quite a decent amount of money off some stocks that you own, now would be a good time to sell. Wait for the market to inevitably crash, and then look at buying up some stuff cheap.
No, sell your stocks and go buy Bitcoin. I'm telling you.
Also, that
I've been doing it for the last 2 years now, which makes me,
how much
very
is
expensive
Bitcoin right
trader.
now?
The Bitcoin value per Bitcoin was up to like 19,000 a day.
Holy!
And a lot of the Bitcoin that I bought was valued at like 10.5 in the heart of the recession or very early on. I bought some Bitcoin that was like 8,500 in its like infancy state. Well, not even infancy, like it was a mature toddler. I'll put it that way.
I wish I would
But
have had the money back then to like invest in some Bitcoin.
I've done so I downloaded Robinhood and I've done some stock trading and I might have made $50 here or $50 there and lost 50 there, but I could cash out on all of my cryptocurrencies right now and there would be a comma involved for sure in what it would be valued at. Some of it's doubled its worth and I put like 1,000 into it.
That's crazy.
It's doing well right now and a lot of it is involved in this central premise that there's like this great reset coming, like capitalism's going to get this great reset and that the Federal Reserve, which is, if you really want to go down some rabbit holes, maybe if we do tailspin off of this for the next couple episodes, I'll do some real hard research on the Federal Reserve versus the very limited research I've done right now. But the Federal Reserve controls the value of the dollar, and it's not a government entity. It's this weird sidecar experiment that's not a government entity, but somehow they control the currency of the United States. And they basically built this house of cards for a very long time, going back to the Great Depression, where every time we hit some sort of downswing or an economic tailspin, they basically just print more money, and they just bailing people out, and they just
flooded the market with cash.
And they just print more money. And although that has a very short-term economic upswing, in the long term, that you're just building more cards on top of your house of cards that eventually is bound to crash. It has to crash at some point.
And like that's also been, something that's helped push inflation to where it is now, because they just pump money into the economy, and it's just it's driving the price of goods up.
It's like how we helped the housing market in the early 2000s,
and even we talked about this on my other with the podcast that I do with my family. We talked about the banks and private companies came to the government hat in hand, and we bailed them out, which is crazy because the point of a private company is if you're good, you succeed. If you're not, you fail. And what should have happened back then was those private companies should have taken the tumble, and we probably honestly would be better off nowadays if that had happened. But they came hat in hand to the government, and the government was like, oh Lord, we can't afford to lose these companies, because more than likely the people in government had their fingers in those pies and did not want to lose all of the money they had tied up into these multiple things.
You've seen The Big Short, right? The movie The Big Short?
I have not, actually.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, you need to go watch The Big Short. I had to watch it 2 or 3 because I'm not just the kind of person that can like watch a movie and like half understand it and half not. It took me a couple times to watch it, and I still don't even have a full grasp on every intrinsic aspect, but I have a pretty good general idea of how it went down. And it was basically, you came to me and you said, hey, I make 40 grand a year, but I want to buy a house that's worth 250 grand. And we're like, okay. Instead of saying to you, hey, Ben, you don't make enough money to be able to afford a house that's worth $250,000. We're going to make it look good enough on paper, and we're going to fudge some numbers to make it look like you make 100 grand a year. And then we're going to find you a loan for that house, even though we know full well that you're not going to be able to afford it. But we make money on the fact that you've got this loan.
Right.
So now I will be able to cash in and make my money, and I don't really give a shit if you can really pay that back to the banks or not. I'm going to make my money right now and do what I need to. And if you can't pay your loan back to the bank, we don't really give a shit because we've already made our money and we're out the door.
Right.
Well, again, you're creating a situation where eventually that's going to fall on its face. And that's what it did in 2008, 2007. That's the recession that we went through then, when the housing industry was in shit because people couldn't pay their loans back to the bank.
Right.
But again, instead of letting that fall on its face and reset itself generically, it was, let's give all these bailouts to these major companies. And by the way, we're not going to prosecute anybody that was at the helm of all this shit.
Which they should have done.
They all walked away scot-free.
And a lot of that,
paying any fines, just walked away with all the money that they had made. And now we're seeing it again in about another 10-year cycle where it's going to fucking fall on its face again.
And the thing with those bailouts that happened is like the companies got that money, and the government was like, all right, this will be the trickle-down effect, but it didn't trickle. The companies used that money to give their executives mad bonuses, and they used a very small percentage of it to actually do what they needed to do with it. So like they went to the government and they were like, oh, please, sir, can we have some money? We're going to fail. And then they got back to their offices with a fat check and were like, ha, suckers, and just like rewarded themselves for schmoozing the system.
Well, it's so similar I think we might have talked about this a little bit, but they had that CEO of a major pharmaceutical company. I think it was an AIDS drug, or it might have been a diabetes drug. I don't remember what it was, but they had him in front of the
Senate
Supreme Court.
Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, Senate Judiciary Committee. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they doubled the price of this drug, right? And they didn't improve the drug whatsoever. They didn't make any changes to it. The sole reason for them doubling the price of that drug was so that they could meet their quarterly and yearly sales uh,
Quotas.
profits,
No
quotas,
profits.
yeah, plan, call it. And they had this guy up in front of everybody, and so this one lady was like, "So the drug didn't get better," and he said no, and she said, "So the people didn't get better, or the people didn't benefit from the price increasing double based on this profit margin? No. So, but at the end of the year, you paid out all of your executives and your top dollar people millions of dollars of bonuses for meeting their quota for selling this drug, while the people suffered and they're paying more, but you and your top executives basically made all of your bonuses and your quotas." And he didn't have anything else to say other than yes.
Wow.
And
The
it's like,
the wellspring of knowledge that is my
that's,
father said that guy was Martin Shkreli. Martin Shkreli was the guy's name.
yeah,
I'll look him up
yeah,
real fast and I'll tell you.
it's insane. And that's where, when you talk about a great reset, it makes me really nervous.
Oh,
And I don't want us to become a socialist.
or Shrekel.
I don't want us to become a socialist country or a socialist world.
Yeah, me either.
But if you're talking about a reset within capitalism to hold people more accountable for why things cost the way that they cost, I can see a correlation that I would be on board with. But you can't get into a situation where you're getting the entire world on the same page, because you're going to run into players like Kim Jong-un and China, who has been extensively dishonest about multiple, a cornucopia, if I will, of topics. Apparently, China has an increase and an uptick in flus right now that they're being dishonest and not reporting on. It's like coronavirus all over again. And I'm not saying it's going to impact us in the same way, but it's like they do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it's all in the name of money. It's all in the name of keeping the economy as strong as they can.
Yeah, so
And at some point in time, you have to draw the line. You have to make a distinction between making decisions for an economic value versus the general well-being of humanity.
right.
Like there has to be a distinction there.
Right. So that dude, just because I wanted to put it out there. So it was a life-saving drug. This article, I guess, hasn't really gone into what the drug was, but his nickname
I think it was an AIDS drug.
This dude's nickname was Pharma Bro.
Yeah.
And he was found guilty of 3 counts of securities fraud, but was acquitted. They acquitted him of 5 other criminal counts related to hedge fund investors. But yeah, no. In 2015, he raised the price of a life-saving drug by more than 5,000%, and he's got sentenced maximum of 20 years in prison.
Oh, that's not even the same guy that I'm talking about. But
Really?
It's
the same type
premise.
of situation.
It's the same premise. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same type of situation. Yep.
Yeah, so that's crazy. What's up, Slump? Thanks for stopping in. You watched the replay. Appreciate you. But yeah, so I don't know. We're a little bit over an hour right now, but that was just a teaser, I guess, into kind of what I want to get into the next couple weeks about this great reset and how daunting and scary that actually is going to be. But
Well, I was reading some quotes on and this is from MSN News, and it was the threat of climate change has been more gradual than that of COVID-19, but it's devastating reality for many people and their livelihoods around the world, and it's greater potential for disruption surpasses even that of COVID-19. And if you get real into the deep state stuff, which is why like New York, California, some of those states that are more densely populated have had stricter lockdown restrictions. If you get way into the deep state stuff, they say that they're doing that to reduce carbon emissions.
Okay.
Which, well, so
I mean, yes, but
I
also,
know, but so carbon emissions are down 7% since the entire lockdown coronavirus has started, and that's globally. That's a global number. That's not just in the
that's
United States,
big for global.
which is huge. So again, if you get way deep into it, again, coronavirus might not have been, I don't think they necessarily created coronavirus to reduce carbon emissions,
But they're going to use
it's
it.
a nice caveat into telling people that they have to stay home and they can't go out and they can't drive their cars.
Right.
Because, and this goes way above my pay grade or understanding, but if global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, really is the issue that some individuals claim it to be, it could be way more devastating than what COVID-19 is.
For sure.
We're seeing behind a very thin veil of civilization right now that we're not bulletproof.
Right.
The humanity that we live within right now,
It's not sustainable.
Rome thought it was the greatest civilization in creation until it collapsed.
Right.
Right. And we're not that old.
And it collapsed because all roads led to Rome, which made it super easy for, sacking purposes.
Yeah. Slavery was alive and well 200 years ago.
Right.
Which is a blink of an eye within
time,
the entire snap of civilization and humanity. So
right.
we're not,
how quickly we forget.
Not invincible,
Yeah.
like, and if you do believe, like, I'm not saying I believe the deep state shit. I'm saying there might be some truths within the idea that there are people in existence and high power that try to make decisions to keep our humanity going the way that it's going.
Yeah.
And if a convenient pandemic comes along and we can use it as a way to reduce our carbon emissions and tailspin that into a great reset where we completely reset our economy, they're going to use it.
No, yeah, for sure. And they're
going to use it.
It's a very scary and slippery slope down a mountain that I don't want to fall down. But I think I'm going to leave it at that with that, and we're going to get in and do some more research and come back next time with some more information, some more well-founded and well-backed information, research and educational wise, for myself. And
I've got a buddy that just got back from Saudi,
interesting,
that I've been talking to that might be interested in coming on and joining us for a podcast as well.
Okay, very cool.
He works in the oil and gas industry.
That could also tie in.
And he would be a good person to have on here that's well educated, that might be able to give us more insight than just you and I have. So
I'm all for it.
Another little teaser. I might be able to get him in on a Zoom call and for him to give us his... He's kind of he's not a conspiracy theory. He's probably about as much as you and I are. You know what I mean?
They're intriguing. Some of them might be true, but all right. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, we'll hit him up, let him know, I guess.
He's an anti-mask guy. I'll just say that much.
Okay.
Which obviously, I'm not anti-mask. Everybody knows I'm not anti-mask. He's a interesting person to talk to.
All right,
for sure.
I'm down. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, we should hit him up. But I'm gonna say we're gonna leave it at that for this week, and we'll go from there moving forward. I I mean, we're trying. We had a few weeks off. We're gonna try and I know Christmas is coming up, but we're gonna try and keep things a little more consistent. I know that I will be home in Arkansas for Christmas that weekend, but if we could maybe somehow swing a we don't have to do it live, we could at least swing a recording that Sunday before I fly back. We can talk about that later because I'll be with my dad, and I think having my dad and possibly my little brother on as well would be interesting.
That would be real cool.
So if we'll talk about it and think about see if we can swing that. But there's another little teaser for you. You guys might get some more.
I'm
them.
coming into slow season, so I've got a lot of time on my hands. So
sounds good. Yeah, but
I just gotta let the girlfriend and the 4-year-old know that I'm going to be in the office with the door shut, and that's really about all the time that it takes for me to coordinate it. So
well, sounds good. Just a little bit of housekeeping here at the end. I will shout out my family's podcast that I do participate at sometime. It's been decently frequently. Just because my little brother was gracious enough to shout out us on his last episode. So that podcast is called Faye Answered Questions, FAQ. You can find that on YouTube and your other podcast listening platforms as well. We try and do that. We record on Thursdays, and he usually tries. I think he's maybe one episode behind, but he does get them edited and put out within the week usually. So if you guys could check that out, that would be super cool. Same goes for us. We are on YouTube, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe on that. And we are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and a few of your other podcast listening services. So make sure to check us out on those. I do check the comments and stuff on YouTube, so if you guys have topics that you want us to talk about, you can either drop them in the Twitch chat here when we're live or on the comment section of our YouTube videos. And I will actually probably put the email address for our podcast up in the link in the description of the next YouTube video. That way you guys could email us topics as well, and I will
or DM us on Twitter,
or actually that's probably better.
Instagram,
Twitter, those handles will be here on the end screen as well. That's probably actually a quicker and easier way to get a hold of either one of us for topics that you would like us to take a look at or that you think we should discuss.
I'll respond to you.
Yeah, we usually try, but other than that, I'm going to we'll leave it at that, and we'll see you guys next week. Probably on Sunday. I'm gonna try for Sunday.
Sunday works for me.
We usually go Sunday or Monday, and I'll try and have the episode up shortly after that. But other than that, you guys be safe. Have a good week. Keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. Listen to the government about mask mandates up to a point. Don't go crazy.
Just wear your mask.
Just wear your mask. That's all you got to do. And other than that, we'll see you guys next time. Tell somebody you love them.